Welcome back to the MetaMinds podcast, where we're all about relentless self-development and consciousness optimization.
We're here with Kiah, who is a plant-based dietitian. She runs her own clinic and she's been vegan for 7 years. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
That's totally fine. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into veganism and plant-based eating? How did you kind of arrive at this point in your life?
So I first became pescatarian, so it was about 2010, I believe, at the time, and I started getting a bit of an interest in health and nutrition. Started going to the gym quite a lot, and then decided that after a bit of research that it was a little bit healthier to eat a more plant-based diet. So pescatarian being that I didn't have any meat or chicken or I did still have fish, still had eggs and still had dairy products as well. So got into veganism essentially from that starting point. At the time, I was super naive. I was quite young, and I probably didn't do as much. I didn't have nearly as much knowledge as I do now. And I think at that time as well, I had a little bit of disordered eating as well. So that also probably was a negative factor of getting into the diet. But at the same time, I think I improved my eating over time through eating this way anyway. So then I decided eventually to go vegetarian and later on to veganism as well. So I did I did a presentation at uni looking into all the effects of the animal agriculture industry. I looked at a lot of videos as well, so more the documentaries. There's quite a lot on Netflix these days. And that led me down the path of veganism as well. So primarily, I started to learn more about what was actually happening in the dairy industry and how our products were made. My original kind of philosophy into getting into the whole lifestyle was all about health originally. But I think once you start to get into a more plant-based diet from one aspect, whether it be health, environmental or ethical, you do start to learn all the other aspects as well. Or you start to learn all the other aspects and you start to care more about all the other aspects as well. So I think now as a vegan, I do obviously care about the health side of things. Like I am a dietitian, so this is my job, and it's what I'm passionate about. But I do think being a vegan for me it's more about reducing my impact on the environment as well. So there's a lot of research about the impact of the animal agriculture industry, especially beef, and their impact on the environment, and then probably primarily their ethical side of things as well. Because say, for example, all of our products and how it's all produced, it's not done in the nicest way. There's kind of, even if things are called humane, in my kind of philosophy, there's no way to humanely kill an animal as well. And even things that are if we're not directly eating the animal. So say, for example, dairy, which is a byproduct of, you're not actually killing a cow getting your milk. But the way the industry works is essentially these cows are artificially inseminated, and their babies are removed from them at the time of birth. And I'm not a mother, but I can imagine what that's like, to have your baby taken away from you at a time of when you've just given birth to produce milk. And so it kind of feels, it's very hypocritical. And yeah, I just can't ethically deal with that as well. So now, yeah, I'm definitely vegan for so many different aspects, and all of them are probably equally as important as well. So this kind of whole journey led me to study Bachelor of Nutrition and Dietetics. So I studied that at Queensland University of Technology. So it's just be a dietitian. There's a few different ways you can do it. You have to go to a university firstly, so you can't do colleges, and you do either undergrad, which is what I did, or you do an undergrad of nutrition science, and then you do a master's of dietetics. So that's a little bit longer, but essentially you come out with the same qualification, and you essentially become an accredited practicing dietitian and an accredited nutritionist of that. So I finished uni a few years ago, and then I decided that I had such an interest in plant-based nutrition that I would start my own business. Now, during uni and pretty much during this entire journey, I had Instagram. So I'd kind of built up an Instagram following over time. So I've got it's not that much in comparison. So I've got 11.1K at the moment. But having that did help me as a baseline platform for my business, because I did have people that had been following me for like 6 years. I've had my Instagram now for 6 or 7 years, and I've had people following me through the entire process. I give a lot of nutrition information on there. So that did help to start off with. I wasn't kind of like starting completely from scratch. I did have a bit of a backing. So I started that, so 2 years ago. So in 2017, I started my business, Plant Nutrition and Wellness. So we're primarily a one-on-one consulting nutrition business. So I see a lot of clients kind of face-to-face or Skype as well. But I'm trying to develop or diversify the number of services I offer at the moment. So I'm busy kind of creating an online course at the moment, an online program. I do seminars as well, and I'm trying to do more workshops as well, just to kind of vary my workload, because sometimes it does get exhausting just seeing people one-on-one all day, and I like to do a variety of different things, and I really like speaking as well. So that's kind of so that's where I'm at now. So I originally started in a clinic in the city, but then just because it was quite difficult for a lot of my patients to get there, parking in the city is an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
Yeah, so I decided that probably not the best option for my business. So then I moved my clinic to a clinic in Hamilton. So now I'm in a clinic in Hamilton, North Lakes and Springfield as well. And we're hoping to open up a few more this year as well, and possibly have some more dietitians come on board, which will be exciting. But yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
There's so much to unpack there. It's fantastic. But yeah, something that sprung to mind immediately was something you said at the start there. And nutritionalfacts.org, which is Dr. Greger's website. He says that the single biggest impact you can have on the planet is to have a plant-based diet. And that's essentially because I think it's like 13% or something of the like gas that goes into the ozone layer is actually from cow methane, basically. But yeah, that was one of the very first things that kind of popped into my mind. And also, there's like definitely a few different pathways to kind of get to plant-based eating, whether it's like, you originally, fascinated with health or something, or originally it's like, this is a dog and this is a chicken and they're both living beings. Why would I eat one of them? And you stop doing that, and then later realize that it's like better for you health-wise, basically. But yeah, again, so much to kind of unpack there. But it's so interesting the ethics side of it, because just seeing it so prominently everywhere, people don't kind of realize just exactly where the food comes from, and it's really scary.
It is really scary, and I think that's one thing, like, because sometimes you just kind of go about your own life and, we don't really think outside the box sometimes, we just keep going through the motions, and then, you actually start to look into, okay, where is my food coming from? And then it gets really, really scary. Like, like they say there's kind of, no, you can't be truly vegan because, like, your food, there's always going to be, animals or something killed in the process. Like, when you're farming grains, there's going to be, or like legumes, there's always going to be animals killed, like insects and stuff like that.
Right.
But yes, I completely agree. Like, it's, that's what we should all be doing, eating a predominantly plant-based diet. Whether or not you go fully vegan is completely up to you. And that's what I always say to all my clients. Like, I'm never going to push veganism on anyone. But as long as they kind of use those approaches of eating mostly plant-based for the majority of their diet, that's when we're going to get the best benefits from, an environmental point of view, an ethical point of view, and for a health point of view as well. And I know there's a big report on climate change that got released a few months ago. I think it was called the IPCC report. And in that report, they talked about reducing global warming to 1.5 degrees instead of 2 degrees, I believe. Don't quote me on this. And they talk about one of the biggest impacts we can have as a society is reducing our intake of animal products and, eating more plant-based foods, just because, the amount of grain and stuff that we're producing at the moment is primarily actually for cattle to eat. So, it's a scary world we live in as well when you start to really read into it.
Right. But it is one of those things that sounds like it is like a social change that needs to occur, or it needs to be educated on a wider scale, right?
Exactly.
So it sounds like you're kind of doing that one-on-one, I guess.
I'm trying to do that one-on-one, but I am like it would be my dream to be able to do that on a larger scale as well, because, you know, it's confusing as well. Like, people, like, if you've been grown up eating meat and dairy your entire life, like, you believe that you need it, you get really, really scared, it's normal as well, and you actually have no idea what to do if you weren't eating that. Like so many people, like, as a vegan, our primary, I always have like this motto of swap it, don't stop it. So whenever you're taking meat out of your diet or you're taking dairy out of your diet, you can't just take it out, because then you will get nutritional deficiencies. And I see that way too often when people just take out meat, especially females, because they've got higher iron needs. But so many females get iron deficiency when they go vegan to start off with, because they just don't swap those animal proteins for plant-based proteins like chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans, tofu, tempeh, primarily because a lot of people have no idea how to use them. Like, even when they were eating meat, those sorts of foods are not really a typical part of an Australian diet. So, you know, kind of going from one end to the other can be a really big scary jump, and people just, you know, I often have my clients saying, I just don't know what to eat. And, you know, it's not them to blame, it's how we're like as a society. But I do think, like you said, with the social change, that's definitely happening.
Especially the last couple of years.
Last couple of years, I've noticed it so much. Like, when I first even went vegetarian, I just remember no one understanding at all what I was doing. I had one friend at the time which was vegetarian, and my best friend was as well, so that helped. But, you know, it wasn't common at all. There was not any foods in the supermarket. Like, you couldn't even get soy milk when you go to get coffee. And I was a big coffee drinker. But, now, like, you look at, say, all the big, for example, ice cream, right? All the big ice cream brands have now brought out all vegan options. Woolworths and Coles, their vegan range is just expanding. Like, they used to have like one tiny little part of the freezer section in the supermarket, and now like it's getting bigger. And I honestly just think it's gonna.
We've got too many options now.
Yes.
No, but also fast food places. And they're selling out crazy. I read the other day, like, KFC is doing, like, I don't even know what it was, vegan chicken nuggets or something.
Oh, really?
Right.
And like, they sold out 500% quicker than everything else. And so it's like, what's really good is like the consumer's choice. Like, they choose to, you know, that the power is in the dollar that they spend. And, and vegans know that. And even if they're healthy vegans, they're like, screw it, I'm going to KFC and buying this vegan burger, whatever it is, to show them, hey, I'm going to buy this. Like, this is real, you know?
I was so Hungry Jacks and got the vegan burger when it first came out. Like,
look, it's not fantastic, but I've had it a couple of times as well.
It's not like, that, like, and this is the thing as well, like, because this is a very new area with food. Some of the vegan products aren't that great either. Like, I feel like they're going to get better, but like, I know there's a few fake chickens and fake cheeses especially that I've tried that are just not that great, but I'm like, look, I'm glad they're doing it. Like, I can't, like, we can't be too picky, you know, at least they are having these options available. But, you know, I do think the quality of food and the amount of, like, that industry in itself, the plant-based meat or the plant-based dairy industry, is just it's going to be a huge market for the future. A huge expansion in that.
And it's good to see that, again, just pushing the you know, decisions on the dollar thing. It's really good to see that the dairy industry and stuff, like, the percentages each year are dropping significantly in the US. Most of the studies I've read, but the US is, you know, makes up for a large portion of the population basically. And it's good to see that the dairy industry is dropping very significantly, because they would just be standing there like, what do we do now basically? And it's like, invest in the opposite thing, man. Make a soy milk farm.
I saw there was a post on. Oh, look, this was a Facebook page this morning, so don't quote me on the credibility of the article. But there was a post on this Vegan Australia Facebook page today that they talked about. In Mississippi in the US, there's the new laws that have just been changed that bans places to call bans products to call themselves like vegan hot dogs or vegan chicken,
because it's not actually
that. And we're having that issue in Australia as well, where there were, like, a lot of the dairy industry was saying, no, you can't call it almond milk because it's not it's not milk,
right?
And like soy milk and stuff like that. And it's like they're the backing for this sort of stuff. I don't know how they come up with it. Like, it's confusing for consumers. Like, I'm sorry, like, if I don't know how people would actually, I'm accidentally getting a soy milk because I thought it was cow's milk. I don't know how often that actually happens. But like, it's like the meat and dairy industry has been massively on the rise. Like, especially, you know, probably for the last 50 years or so, like we're just eating so much more than we need in general as a society. But, you know, I think this is probably the first time that they're actually maybe freaking out because, you know, the consumer, there's a social change happening. People aren't demanding those products as much and they're going more for the plant-based alternatives as well. So it's probably the first time that they've taken a real hit. And yeah, but like honestly, like sometimes like the vegan products are so similar as well.
Yeah.
Like there's a Funky Fields has a vegan mince and that's available at Woolies that like I use some here and there. But it literally looks like it looks like real mince and it tastes like real mince as well. But like saying that I haven't eaten mince in a while, but everyone who's not vegan that I'm friends with who tries it, they think it's like really like legitimately mince. So yeah, it's an interesting world we have in the future, I think.
And there's a lot of really good role models like, you know, Nimai Delgado, I don't know if you know who that is, but basically a lot of people that are coming out that are like huge IFBB like bodybuilders and, you know, just a lot of different YouTubers and things like that are coming out that are spreading this message, which is really fantastic to see because, you can just like a person for who they are and you realize that they actually eat in a particular way and they spread this message without being this propagandary kind of pushing this agenda, you know? So it's really good. Like you're doing the same thing as well, you know? And it's like, good to see so many influencers as such, like taking over this social change because they really can make a huge impact on people's lives and the planet just by having a couple of Instagram followers, you know?
Exactly.
Which is another crazy thing to see.
I know. It's all the power in our phones. It's really scary.
And that is good for the fitness side and for bodybuilding because it debunks the myth that you have to have meat or heavy proteins to get to that physique. Where obviously you're saying like there are lots of vegan people out there who have like amazing physiques who compete with the meat eaters. And they're basically debunking that theory without pushing it down your throat of like you need to be vegan or whatever. It's kind of
where
like,
do I get my protein from?
All the time. Like someone actually, because I'd gone ages and I'd never had anyone ever say it to me, and I was like, everyone always complains about this question, but I've never had anyone say it. And then someone asked me, and I literally laughed because I was like
oh, this is real.
It's actually something that happens. But there's a new documentary coming out called Game Changers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just me and my guys.
Because they're all about. I'm pretty sure it's just all about athletes who eat vegan food. And how they're competing, you know, really cool. in the world stage, essentially.
And doing better than a lot of them people who eat meat. So.
Exactly,
So what kind of things would you like recommend to people if they came into your clinic for a good starting point?
Good starting point. So I generally say just experiment to start off with. So like what I talked about before is like swap it, don't stop it. So if you're taking dairy out of your diet, you need to be replacing it with something else. Same with if you're taking meat out of your diet, replace it with something else. So I'd say, you know, just start by trying the different plant milks on the market to see which one you like. There's so many these days as well. Like, you know, you got soy, almond, macadamia, oat,
macadamia milk's delicious.
And like oat as well.
Right.
And so this, like, you're not going to be able to get those all the time when you go out. So say in a coffee shop, there's generally just soy and almond. But at home, you can try any of those with your foods, with your cereal for breakfast, for example. Or even starting, if you're going to a coffee shop regularly, order like a soy latte instead of like a, you know, regular cow's milk latte as well. So just steps like that. And then kind of more from the meat side of things or the protein side of things, like just trying to experiment with legumes and tofu and tempeh because a lot of people have never used them before. And the only way you're going to learn how to use them is by cooking and trialing them for yourself. Or going out to restaurants that are vegan and trying their different options because that will give you some inspiration. Because if you like go out to somewhere and say you have vegan spaghetti bolognese, for example, you could be like, say it was made of lentils, for example. You could be like, oh, that was such a yummy dish. I'm going to look at some recipes online on the internet, and there's thousands of vegan recipes out there, and recreate that at home. But often, you know, if you haven't used the product before, like say chickpeas, and you're trying to think about how to use them, you will, like, unless you go somewhere or you research and you have a look at recipes or, you know, you have someone else showing you how to use them, you'll have absolutely no conceptual idea of how to incorporate them into your diet as well. And how can we expect them to eat the right amounts or, you know, even use them if they just have never, you know, even seen them essentially before as well. So that's where I'd say always to start off with. There's also like apps like Happy Cow that can that show you the local vegan places around if you're going out to eat as well. Facebook is always a good one. So I always say don't listen to what people say on Facebook, like in terms of advice for nutrition specifically, because people just have the worst advice. But they're really good for supportive networks. And, you know, I'm pretty lucky because a lot of my friends are vegan and they happen to be. I don't know how that came about. It just happened over time. Which is funny. But like a lot of people don't have that. And, you know, they don't have that luxury of, you know, having someone that can show them what to eat. So a lot of these Facebook groups have local meetups that you can meet with other people, or potlucks as well, where you can, you know, everyone brings in a plate and stuff like that. So, you know, that would be a good place to start, because then you'd meet people who are kind of following a similar diet to you. It's a good way to network as well, and just, you know, have some more friends as well. And you can try all these different foods.
I guarantee if you type vegan and your city in, like, you will find a big community that is, full of a lot of people that are doing that.
I know, like in Brisbane, there's there's Vegans Queensland, Vegan Girls Australia, Plant Powered Brisbane.
There's even like a vegan dating Facebook thing, I'm pretty sure.
Well. I saw that the other day actually.
There you go.
Which is cool to see.
I don't think there's not as many vegan males as there are females.
Yeah, that's definitely.
For sure.
They need to make a vegan Tinder or something.
And that's a legitimate concern as well. Sure. Like, because I'm lucky my partner's vegan now. Now, I didn't pressure into doing it at all. It's actually a funny story, because he was like the biggest carnivore. No, not literally a carnivore, but like he'd eat a lot of meat. And like he's a pretty good soccer player as well. And you know, I'd just always been vegan for since we were together. And then kind of 2 years into our relationship, he was like, you know what, I think I'm going to try to do vegan, mostly to see if, because he's very competitive, as a lot of guys are, to see if it would improve his sport. He did it overnight, and I think that was also, he could do it overnight because I was cooking a lot. He has a personal dietitian on hand all the time. He's gotten very good at his dietetic knowledge. I'm very impressed. But he lost 10 kilos, and he wasn't he wasn't really overweight at that time. Like, he still had kind of like a six-pack, when he was 10 kilos heavier, but it just kind of leaned down that extra body fat, improved his muscle mass as well, and now he's the fittest he's ever been, and just is so much better of a soccer player, and he feels a lot better as well, because we always have this joke, because when we were first together, I'd never ever see him cook, and I was like, no, you don't know how to cook at all, you just don't. And then he's actually he would just eat processed foods all the time, takeaway, and just packaged stuff, and now he's eating a lot of whole foods. A lot of the stuff I cook as well, and he's actually cooking all the time as well. And I think when you start to feel better as well, and you see that result, that's when it kind of keeps you going. And for him as well, again, it was probably from the health sport side of things, but we'd watch some documentaries before, together, and then you learn about dogs and stuff, and you're kind of well, how can we eat chicken, and we have a little animal at home as well, because I've got a little puppy, and it just doesn't add up.
The cognitive dissonance is so strong. And as soon as you mention that, it's in China, they bash cages, and that gets the adrenaline high, and that's what makes the meat taste tastier or whatever, and then they kill the dogs basically by bashing them on the head. Very aggressive or whatever, and they're oh yes, but that doesn't happen here, kind of thing. It's but it does, and dogs are experiencing the same thing as a cow, basically. And cows are best friends, and all these different little things that you kind of hear about. It's it's the exact same thing, but we've just been conditioned to believe one thing when it's actually another thing. It's why don't we just kill our dog and eat it? Why not? And it's I like to question people like that, and sometimes it's definitely a little bit aggressive. But
and it's because my family's got chickens as well, and I talk to I try not to push it on them too much, but they've got chickens in our backyard. I'm how can you eat chicken if we literally have chickens in the backyard? Because we're talking about Joe Rogan before, because I like his principle of sometimes of the way he eats as well, because I think he talks about hunting, so he goes out, hunts his food, and eats meat. He's very against veganism, but he's also really against factory farming. But he thinks that, okay, if I go out and I kill my own animal, then that's actually good. And I feel other people should try and take that mentality sometimes too, because if you can go out and kill your food, or if you do go out and kill your food, I think that'll give you a lot more of a perspective on eating and where your food comes from. Because if you think about the supermarkets or the meat section, or where it's all very pristine, it's very clean, you're not seeing any photos of animals dying and stuff like that. So it's separate. So it's like you don't make that connection at all. But, you know, if you're actually going out there, if you're going to eat animals and, you know, if you're going to kill animals, and like hunt yourself, like you're going to make a lot more of a connection. And then I think you're probably making a lot more of an informed decision as to your eating habits.
And not only that, again, not that I'm, you know, advising going out and killing animals, but it's like the food that animal would have eaten would have much more natural nutrition in
definitely,
it. So you're actually going to get much more benefits of eating that animal, whereas the factory farmed animals, they eat mass-produced, genetically modified corn, basically, their whole lives. So they're super fat, so there's more meat to go on the supermarket rack. So there's really not that much nutrients in it at all, kind of thing, which is the kind of worst part. So, chances are that elk that Joe Rogan is eating is full of grass, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
And also, not to mention, I think you both alluded to it before, but the idea of their social and psychological needs being met, which they would not be met at all in these farming situations.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would like to live in like a small house or enclosure with like 50 other people just getting
10 minutes
fed.
of sun per day.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the worst part, I think, of everything. And like honestly, free range is not that much better either.
No, these are just labels that they've come up with to make it seem good.
Like free range is just essentially, you know, essentially the same amount of area. I think it's like almost a sheet, like for a chicken. This is like you have a sheet of paper essentially, but like they're just outside. You can range freely, but there's a lot of them in a small area as well. And that's why, you know, we don't make this connection as well because we don't see this happening. You know, all the factory farms are in the middle of nowhere and they're not in the local cities or kind of in the suburbs as well. So I think if people saw where that food was coming from a lot more as well, they'd probably make a lot better decisions in their eating habits too.
Yeah. Just going back to what you kind of mentioned before, the social side of things, I think it's like definitely extremely beneficial to have someone around you, whatever it is that you're trying to do. If you're trying to go to the gym and you have a friend that goes to the gym and you see that benefit of them. But I think more often than not, a lot of people are growing up in an environment where everyone around them eats meat, they were raised to eat meat kind of thing. And, you know, if they tried to do otherwise, not only would it be harder for them to find the information, but also they would get pushback from everyone else around them, basically trying to keep them in this social kind of barrier, whatever psychological reason that is. But that's what's really good about, I suppose, meeting more people that are kind of professional. That have...
And like that's like the power of the internet these days, right? Like I definitely think that's probably one of the biggest things people struggle with is that family occasion as well. And look, like if you're around a family that's not supportive, it really gets to you over time as well. Like I'm like my family's awesome now, which is good. Like they all still eat meat, but they're really supportive. They always make me vegan food and stuff like that, and they're open to it. But a lot of people don't get that luxury, and you know, especially in like family occasions, like Christmas can be really, really stressful. And I think the thing is as well, if you're like, say you're vegan for predominantly ethical reasons as well, and then, you know, you see kind of, you know, the traditional turkey and stuff made at Christmas on a ham, like and you're seeing all these people you love, like engaging in this activity which doesn't align with your values, you know, that's really, really tough for some people as well. And, you know, you're trying to share with them, you know, why are you doing this? And then, you know, they feel kind of personally attacked, and then this can create a lot of family wars, I think, as well. So it's quite tough for some people.
Absolutely. We might take a quick break there.
Yep.
And we will jump back into the second half of the podcast in 1 second.